Okay, Thumb Part 2. We have changed over to the TPU mount that was in the box, and we're going to fly it around. And really, I just need to rip around because I was just trying to fly the wing there on HD, and the Wi-Fi adapter is wiping out my GPS, and that's meaning I can't fly. So I need to brush off the cobwebs, have a good rip of this, and we'll see how the footage turns out on the Thumb now it's got a better mount than last time. Hi, it's Future Me. Just to bring people up to speed in case they didn't see the original video. This is the original mount I used, which came in the Thumb pack, and it's kind of plastic and quite flexible. But this turned into Jello City, and I'll show you a link to the original video to be up in the corner somewhere at the moment. So what I did is I swapped over to this mount. This is TPU and also came in a box. But I did want to explain, some of you may have just seen this little purple thing there and wonder what it is. It's the case of, when I installed this, I realised it was like, it's not the most secure thing ever. How could I secure it just in case it comes off? All it is a piece of ribbon just tied around there, and then the other bit tied around the frame. But the middle bit is loose enough so it doesn't transfer any vibrations through. But if worse comes to worse and it falls off, hopefully it would stick there. It's quite similar to when I go skiing. I have like a little cord tether for my GoPro which fixes to a separate point on my helmet, just in case something happens. Also, from feedback from you guys viewing, I've got a piece of electrical tape here. This is because a lot of people talked about this little door for the SD card came off, and also this is the ND16 filter that came with it. I've just put a little bead of hot glue around it because a lot of other people are saying how they lost their filters or their regular lens covers, so that's just to make sure that doesn't come unscrewed. What I've done, I've just put this on with the TPU mount, but it didn't have its own sort of mounting plate and the holes don't line up. So I've put under there a piece of double-sided Gorilla tape, which is normally pretty strong. You can just see a little bit of it there, but yeah, I did that extra bit of precaution just in case. Anyway, back to the video.
So I went ahead and I did those 3 flights on the day, and I got recordings of the Thumb and all, and I've already put those through GyroFlow to check the results out. What I'm showing here is the DVR, which I don't want to dwell on, and I won't come back to it unless I feel it's relevant, but I just wanted to show that once again we're getting a pretty good footage from the DVR. The quad flies pretty smoothly. I wasn't flying particularly smooth on the day, I have to say. I was a little bit all over the place, a little bit out of practice. I haven't done anything for a while, but the general gist of this is, yep, this is pretty smooth. This is a pretty good flying quad, so should hopefully translate through quite well to the RunCam Thumb. Now, last time in my comparison shots I put them side by side like this, and where the footage is a bit better than last time, I don't think this is so helpful. And I showed this to my patrons, and one guy also commented that he found it quite hard to look at, and I think he's right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and show the full screen on each and try and highlight the differences, and if I need to show them side by side, I'll show the full screen, because I think that sort of centre line sort of takes your eye away from some of the detail there. So I've created a little bunch of clips from the non-stabilised and stabilised footage, and I'll start here with the non-stabilised. So this is just raw footage off the Thumb, and it's filmed at 1080p at 50 frames a second, and it just it shows the first part where I was doing the DVR. It's not particularly good flying, but I've left it in because you can see that my corrections were a bit all over the place, and I was wondering if that's the sort of thing that would smooth out nicely. Instantly, I would say that this is already much better than the previous mount. There's not half as near as many vibrations. It's not vibration free by any means, but it's not too bad. It's not anything I'd want to sort of upload and say, look at this. It's reminiscent of sort of the old keychain camera, but it's not too bad. Put it up high, and this is something I really dislike. If you look at the bottom left corner, you can see the sort of distortion of the houses kind of folding in there, and the whole sort of fields as it moves around the centre of the screen distort. So I don't actually like the optics in this camera very much. And I just wanted to try and do a variety of footage and move around the fields a bit, because the wind was different. This field was a bit more open, so there was a bit more wind going on. Again, this raw Thumb footage looks okay. It doesn't look good, but it's a vast improvement on what it was before. So I was really hopeful that GyroFlow could smooth out any of the dodgy notches there. And when I got up to these trees, this is significantly more windy going up high here, so I thought this would be interesting to see how it handles it. And to be fair, it doesn't do a bad job at all. And again, I'm just literally flying around the trees, trying to do sort of different things, trying to do sort of, you know, little flips and rolls here and there, just to see how it goes. I do notice that this quad, albeit smooth, is on a much older version of Betaflight, and you can really tell when it hits its own prop wash. But yeah, I really dislike the distortion on this camera. When it yaws, it really, the eye really catches the distortion, and it's kind of like, it doesn't feel like you're turning so much as like the landscape is drifting by, which is weird. Again, going up high here, because I've noticed in a lot of cameras that if you're going to get jello, the wind up high is going to cause it. And again, it's not doing too bad. It's, you know, it's not free of jello, it's not free of shake, but it's no GoPro footage either. But overall, it's a lot better than it was. The question now is, how will GyroFlow do it? And we're going to go straight into the same bunch of clips, but with GyroFlow enabled. And this is the footage after it's been put through GyroFlow, and I won't go through the whole process I used. Essentially the same as last time. I used the low pass filter that was suggested by RunCam. I ticked the box to reduce rolling shutter, and I used 5 data points to sync up the optical with the gyro. I checked that the little graphs matched each other and looked pretty good, and these are the results. So what I notice from GyroFlow is kind of interesting, and I do notice I'm getting these little artifacts every now and then from it as well. Hopefully that's something that could be taken care of in software. But what I do notice is we get more shakes than in the original footage, but anytime there's more of a sort of sweeping larger camera move, that is smoothed out a lot better. It's like it can't really cope so much with the small shakes, it just makes those worse. But give it something a bit bigger, which is like, you know, you're doing inputs to correct and stuff, and it doesn't do bad. But overall, I don't like what I'm seeing, because I'm still seeing more shaking than was there currently. It's kind of like, oh yeah, it's smoothing it, but it's adding this shake as well, which is like, well, that's, you know, you're taking away the whole idea of how it would be smoothed out. Yeah, it's sort of forward flight looks okay, but there's that judder there, and I really dislike that a lot. But it makes the turns look a little bit smoother. But again, it's juddering about, and I just don't like that at all. I still think GyroFlow is not helping the footage in this one. I tend to think that the raw footage is better than what GyroFlow is producing. Now, it could be, again, that I'm using the GyroFlow software incorrectly. I've watched a bunch of tutorials. I've checked that my gyro points are synced up, and that all looks fine, so I don't know quite what else to do from there. Obviously, the people getting the very best results from this, you know, are literally putting in GoPro 10, which is already hyper smoothed, and then adding GyroFlow to it to make it even smoother. And I guess that's going to work better than if you've got something a little bit juddery. You put something buttery smooth in already, it's only going to, you know, make it better, I guess. But anyway, that's the GyroFlow thing. Let me show you a couple of these clips side by side. I won't split it down the middle. I will literally just put each complete footage next to each other, and you guys can tell me what you think is the best one. And I think these clips really do illustrate things well in terms of the big movements. You can see how smooth the GyroFlow turn is. It doesn't do any of the little corrections I was doing. It just sort of averages that stuff out, and that looks much better. But it still manages to put those shakes in, and I'm going to ignore those artifacts for now, because I figure that's just me. In a straight line like this, I think the raw footage has it beaten. But as soon as you do the big turn and here's me, you can see me overcorrecting and then going back on the left hand side, and on the right hand with GyroFlow it smooths it out quite nicely. But I just can't get away from the fact that it puts these extra bumps in when you're just going along and it's reasonably smooth in the other way. And again, you saw my bigger turn there in a correct on the raw footage, and GyroFlow stabilises that quite nicely. And ditto, the turn there looks like you know, I flew it better.
So what's next for this guy? Honestly, I'm not sure right now. I mean, I don't really like that screen distortion, and I didn't really notice it last time because it was busy shaking around, but now I've seen the sort of, it's almost like the screen is sort of folding into the corner. I dislike that a lot. And so either I have to build up an even softer mount from this, or perhaps what I need to do is move it to a smaller, less fast quad. Perhaps there's something in the 5-inch blades that vibrate at a frequency that other smaller quads don't, so I might move it to a smaller quad like, I think most people that tested this have put it on small, like sub 3-inch frame, so I might do that just to see if I can get any better results from it with, like, you know, just the mount without having to do anything special. But I have to say, at the moment I still just can't recommend this as a camera, because the amount of hassle I'm trying to go through to try and get footage that's half decent seems to be much, well, the amount of effort is way more than the results are coming back in. And even when the results, even if those were completely smooth, I still wouldn't like the screen distortion it did. So if you want, like, you know, the best footage you can get a GoPro essentially and stick it on there, and that will be better, and don't get one of these. But, you know, I'll try it again with something else at some point, and we'll see if we can at least get better footage from it. But anyway, that's it for now. That's part 2. Let's see what happens in part 3. Won't it be fun? Anyway, hope that's helpful. Links are down the bottom if you really want it, but I wouldn't recommend it. And I'll catch you next video. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.